Bleak times ahead for the country as there are indications the energy crisis will get worse because of a reduction in the current generation capacity of the Bui Dam. My name is Nia Kofi Smatabe and this is today's big story. Thanks for staying with us here on today's big story. Now, in the next few days, the energy crisis in the country is likely to get worse. This follows a statement from the Bui Power Authority that its generation station is unable to maintain the high rate of power generation and production and has had to reduce it in order to protect the turbines from potential danger. Now, the BPA is currently operating its generation plant at an overdraft rate of 3.66 million kilowatt per hour per day that's from November 2013 and about 2.5 times the target rate. This was aimed at supplementing current energy generation. The current situation is also not favored by the hydrology of the Black Volta River, as expected inflows in May and June are usually very low. The BPA says it is monitoring the reservoir level and will revise the production plan in conjunction with Gridco as soon as it is prudent to do so. But before we hit the phone lines, or before we get started with the discussions, let's revisit the inauguration of the Bui power plant and President Mahama speaking at the commissioning and expressing hope that the Bui power plant will deal with the energy crisis.
Even though the Bui Dam has been long in coming, I must say it could not have come at a better time. At a time when our economy is growing at a respectable rate of 7 to 8%, the demand for energy has been growing phenomenally at almost the same rate, making demand always threaten to outstrip supply. Even before the Bui Dam had been completed, it had already helped to resolve partially our Dumsor crisis, as you all call it, when I had the opportunity to fast-track the commissioning and operation of its first turbine, which put 133 megawatts of much-needed power into our national transmission grid. This helped to ameliorate the effects of the energy crisis we were facing as a result of the disruption of the West African gas pipeline.
Well, that was President Mahama speaking at the commissioning of the Bui Power Authority. But are there contingency measures to deal with the current situation? Ghana's Energy Minister Emmanuel Kofi Amabua is optimistic adequate supply of gas to meet the country's energy needs can deal with the current energy crisis effectively. But how much gas does Ghana need, and what is the country's current gas shortfall, and is it really the ultimate solution? And well, joining me in the studio now is the Assistant External and Communications Relations Officer at the Bui Power Authority, Mauli Fui-Kojovia. Good evening, Mauli, and thanks for joining me.
Good evening, Smart.
Okay, and we're also expected to be joined later for the show on the phone lines by the Director of Policy Research, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, John Peter Mewu, and also an energy expert. But let me start with you, Mauli. Explain for us, break it down, if I can put it that way, the current situation at Bui. What exactly is the situation?
Okay, thank you very much once again. Good evening to all your viewers. As rightly said in the statement that the Bui Power Authority issued this morning, we've reached a level where we've got into our minimum operating level. At this level, we are supposed to judiciously use the water to actually sustain us till we get to the next rains, which we are expecting in a week or two. You would know that we are currently down south of the country are experiencing rainfall down here, and we hope in a week or two time the rains will actually come up north to actually build up our reservoir.
So sorry to cut in, but then does it mean then that the water level from the Black Volta has reduced?
Yeah, we started the formation of the Black Volta way back in June 2011, and up to somewhere in March 2013, we had reached more than a minimum operating level. That is the 168, which actually enabled us to start some power generation. You recall that on May 3rd, 2013, we had actually done what we call inauguration of first power. So at that time, we had the water level okay to actually generate some power, and we were operating one of the units, unit number 3, that was ready at the time. So in December 2013, when we actually had the full complement of them, which is the 400 megawatts installed capacity, we were able to, because our water level has risen up to 177.9 meters above sea level. So with that water level, we actually had a planned target that we're going to actually generate power to 1.44 million kilowatts hour per day. But you will recall that around that area, when we had 2 of our thermal plants, we had some power challenges, and the system operator, which is Greco, had actually called on us, the Bui Power Authority, to actually up our production to be able to match the demand of power in the country. So based on that, we actually had to do more or twice our targeted or our planned generation how do you call it, rate, what we had actually planned to do. So we're doing from 1.44 million kilowatts per hour to 3.66 million kilowatts per hour. So based on that, that has actually overdrawn our reservoir currently, and we've.
But wasn't it anticipated that if you were doing twice, or maybe even more than twice, your actual generation capacity, you were going to get to this problem where the reservoir would be drawn so much that you won't have enough to generate?
Well, we knew that, and that's where we are at a point where we can actually give more than we can now. So we're actually reducing generation. As we speak now, we have just 1 unit operating, and that unit is supposed to give us 90 megawatts on daily basis. So at this level, we're not going to actually increase our plants to actually generate more than. In fact, we can do that, but if we do that, we risk our plants of actually some damages in terms of cavitation, and cavitation actually means wearing out of our turbine blades. I mean, if we do that, we'll have foam coming on top of the blades that could actually damage it. Then there's a cost to it, then maintenance and another thing. So we are actually monitoring the situation. It's not as if the Bui plant is shutting down as some other media circles are.
So what's the level of the water now?
We are at the minimum operating level. We are
and
that is the 168.
168
meters above sea level.
But ideally you needed 177, or?
No, that's the minimum operating level. The maximum operating level for the Bui Dam is 183 meters above sea level. So between this range, you should be cool to operate. 168 and then the 183, you are cool to operate.
Okay, just hold on for me there. I've been joined on the line now by the Director of Policy Research at the African Center for Energy Policy, John Peter Amewu. Good evening to you, Peter, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your listeners.
Okay, so with this situation we find ourselves in, I was just asking, sorry, I think I just lost Peter on the line. We'll try and raise Peter on the phone, and then we'll get back to discuss also take his view on this particular subject. But Molly, back to you in the studio. I was trying to find out from you earlier, could we have averted this situation simply because we were in a state when, of course, we're facing energy crisis, but knowing the amount of water you had in the reservoir, knowing the limitations for your operations, did you really need it to have generated up to about twice your generation capacity?
Well, as I said, the demand, or where we got to, was based on the demand from our system operator, which is the Greco. You know, the Greco is actually the body entrusted to actually get all the power generated in this country for distribution. So based on their request from us, I mean, they can either ask Akosombo or Bui Dam that, hey, we need more power, you need to up your generation, and you do that. And if the water level is there, you have to do it because there's a need for the demand. There's a high demand for the power. There's nothing you can do than to up it. Now, we were monitoring it. It's not as if they just said up and you just go without any studies or any technicalities to it. So we actually up the demand based on the water level, and we're still monitoring. And it's not as if the Bui Dam is shutting down because the water level is down. We are only saying that we have reached our minimum operating level. At this rate, we will just be able to maintain what we are generating now until we expect the rain to come in a week or two. Then we'll be able to up the generation capacity.
Let me get back onto the phone line now. John Peter Amewu has joined us again. Thanks for your time again. again, Peter. From where you sit, how do you assess this particular situation? Now, Mbui has reached its minimum generation capacity, and so you say it's just one of your operating units that's currently functioning. Yeah. John, how do we deal with this?
Hello?
Hello?
I hardly can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. I'm asking that how do we deal with this particular situation now that Bui has reached its minimum generation capacity of producing power for us, and actually we have only one of the generating units currently operating instead of at full capacity?
Yeah, if I get you clearly, there's little we can do as a country because this thing is expected. Don't forget the Bui dam is a regulatory dam, which presupposes that you can't deploy 400 megawatts. If you dare to do that, the dam can last only for 6 months. And so instances like this, of course, is expected. The question is what we can do. It's a difficult question to answer because as a country, we don't have that backup which we call the reserve, that is spinning reserve capacity, which will come on board anytime we have such difficulties. Those reserves are not there. And that is why we are experiencing difficulties even when there's systematic maintenance of our plant. So currently as a country, there is nothing we can do because it takes no less than 3 years to put up a generation plant. And so not until we have an excess capacity which you can call on board anytime you have a such difficulties, there is little the country can do now. We have to bear with the do so.
Is it there also then that we unduly pressured the Bui Power Authority to come in to help us with our Dumso crisis when indeed I'm asking if you think that we probably unduly pressured the Bui Power Authority to step in to help us deal with this crisis when it started, when probably they weren't fully ready to deal with the situation?
I'm very sorry. I hardly can hear you. The line, I can't hear you at all. The line is very bad.
Okay, my producers will try to work on your line and then we'll get you back on the phone again. But Marley, I'll bring that same question to you. Yeah. Do you think that Bui was rushed into helping solve the problem when indeed you were not that ready?
Well, I wouldn't say we were rushed to solving the problem. The demand for power keeps growing day in, day out. And that's why there's a concerted effort by all stakeholders in the industry to actually up the demand for power. You know, the West African, our gas project is currently ongoing, and I'm sure when many of the projects are actually finished, we should be able to up the demand. But there's one thing we should learn as a country, that the demand for power always keep increasing. So there's more need to actually put more resources in the energy sector so that we'll actually get to a point that we'll have more to meet our demand and have a reserve margin. You know, if we have a reserve margin, that will be able to actually take care of any emergencies, like if any plant shuts down, we have a reserve margin that will actually come. And let us also be mindful that power, unlike electricity, unlike other things, cannot be stored in anything. Once you generate, you use. That's why when we're called upon, there was a water we could generate. We have to generate for it to use.
Just hold on again. Peter has joined us. Probably this time around will be third time lucky with Peter. Peter, can you hear me now?
It's better now, please.
Okay, yes. So I was asking before your line dropped that do you think that probably we pushed the Bui Power Authority to come in to help us address our Dumso issue when in fact they weren't probably fully ready to do so?
You asked me whether we have pushed the authorities to help us reduce the power.
The Bui Authority had to double more or less their production at the height of our Dumso crisis sometime last year. And I'm asking that do you think we probably rushed them into coming in to help us deal with the Dumso crisis when, from all indications, probably they weren't that ready?
Well, I have stated that earlier on, if you get what I said clearly. You see, I said the Bui dam is a regulatory dam. And so if you want to deploy the whole of the 400 megawatts of Bui dam, it only lasts for maximum of 6 months if you attempt to do that. If you deploy the whole of the 400, you will break the dam. And so the difficulties we are experiencing now is because we try to put a lot of pressure on the Bui Dam. But of course, we have no option than to do that. Okay? And that is why we are here. You see, the difficulty for us as a country is what my good friend had already stated. We need at least about 400 megawatts as a reserve capacity, either spinning reserve or available reserve at any point in time, which we can call upon when we need, we are involved in crises like what we have now. We don't have that as a country. And so there is little we can do. There is little we can do. Nothing at all we can do. But the only thing we can do is to resort to demand-side management, which is a do so. I don't see what we can do now as a country. Don't forget the 5-year cycle of the Akosombo Dam is this year running to next year, where we are expected to receive a little water in the dam, which will mean that Akosombo is going to experience similar problems by next year because of the level of flow. Don't forget the Bui is the upper dam, and the same water that flows to the lower dam here at Akosombo. And so gradually, Akosombo is going to experience the same problem. And the water cycle, in terms of the difficulties that we experience, is after every 5 years. And we are rightly in the year now. And so Akosombo is going to experience that same problem. And that is why we keep on saying that our power problem running from 2015 to 2016, 17 is going to be worse if no aggressive mechanism is put in place to address the problem.
So looking at the larger picture, what sort of mechanisms should we put in place? Would renewable energy help us? Because we say we want to do thermal, but we're still having some challenges in that area as well.
You see, renewable will not help us because currently the government has the renewable law there, which allow what we call renewable obligation certificate on generators that are relying on conventional generation to buy at least 20% to 10% of that renewable. That cannot happen because renewable is not friendly to the environment in terms of cost.
Okay.
But don't forget, we are giving subsidy to the conventional fuel. And if you are subsidizing conventional fuel against the little expensive renewable will not play in the market. Nobody will buy renewable in the market. If you want renewable to be bought in the market, then somebody will say, we want it. And if people say we want it, somebody must impose it on the people. And the only person that can impose renewable on the people is government. Unfortunately, government is subsidizing the conventional fuel, which makes the renewable very expensive. So renewable cannot play in the market now. Our agenda for 2020 was to increase the renewable to about 10% of our energy mix. That is not achievable. We cannot achieve that. If you go into the law, that is what the law says. It is not achievable because the feed-in tariff regime, as I stated now, is not in place. So how can you even achieve the 10%? So that law is just there on paper, can't work. It is over ambitious, and I don't know whoever brings out this idea. So renewable cannot play in Ghana at all because the environment, in terms of the cost environment, is not friendly to environment. So forget about renewable.
So how about gas then?
Gas is a good option. But don't forget, gas is a regional commodity. Gas, unlike fuel, can be transported through, tankers. You can't do that through gas unless you do it through an LPG or you liquefy the gas. That is the only way we can do that. But that, again, is a cost intensive. And so you need to start that process sometime now. We are late behind schedule. And so what we need to do now is to begin to do more exploitative arrangements to exploit other offshores for arrangement of gas. Because the gas we have now, both Sankofa and named them Jubilee, it's not sufficient to drive our energy demand in the country. So gas will be a game changer, but it will only become a game changer when we begin to look for alternative means of getting the gas. And that can only be when we do exploitative and intensive exploration for gas. But again, we are increasing our fiscal regimes. We are making the fiscal regimes very unattractive to the oil companies. And so they will not even come to Ghana to do that. They will go to other areas like Ivory Coast where the regimes are a bit more friendly to do the exploitation. So as a country, I think we need to get our policy directives right and do the right thing at the right time.
So do you, from what you're saying, do I then get it that for you, from where we are, we really can't do much about our energy crisis for now? Because
there's a little we can do now. The only thing we can do in the short term for now is the demand-side management, which is the doom some. In the long run, we can build out more generation plants. But if you build a generation plant, you have to fire them with a cheaper fuel, which is the gas. We can build a generation plant and fire them with light crude. We have a lot of, we have some of the plants there which feed on light crude. Government cannot buy the line crew because of the cost-sensitive element of it. That is why those plants are not running. So if you want to fire your plant with gas, then you must make gas available. The only way we can make gas available is either internally, because gas, as I stated, is a regional commodity. If you don't want to get the gas internally, then you can bring the gas through what we call the LNG processes, which of course is very expensive in terms of cost, and you need a long-term planning to arrive at that. So, I mean, I see a doom for this country in terms of our energy resources.
All right, thank you very much, John Peter Mau, who is the Director of Policy and Research at the Africa Center for Energy, for your time with us here on today's Big Story. But back to you, Mauli, in the studio. Do you agree with what he says, that for now, it looks like for the short term, we really can't do much? We might just as well go with the doomsaw like that?
Yeah, I agree with him that there's a concerted effort by all stakeholders to actually up the demand for power and for us to actually build the energy infrastructure to be able to take care of our needs, and then actually have a reserve margin that will take care of some challenges when we have any plant failing us at any point in time. But let me use this opportunity to state that the Bui Dam has this synchronized condenser mode, which actually generates reactive power. What it basically means is that whenever we are not running active power or generating active power, we actually do reactive power, which actually helps in the stability of voltage or current. And what I mean is that when there is already power in the system, normally we hear ECG or Greco talking about system losses. But based on this megawatts that we generate when we are not actually running, making active power, this actually is able to push power to the various destinations and actually boost system supply and all that things.
You spoke about reserve margins. John also spoke about us having the same reserve margins. How best can we ensure that our reserve margins don't get pushed up into dealing with issues like this as and whenever they come up?
Well, for me, I am a highly optimistic person. I know this is a problem we are faced with currently as a nation. I think this is not the first time we are having an energy crisis. It started way back in 2007, thereabout. But what we can do is that for us to actually exploit all sources and alternative sources of power generation, apart from the Akosombo Dam and the Bui Dam, which are all hydro, and then the Pond Dam, which is a run-on-the-river plant. There are other mini hydros to be done, the Poalu, Juale, and the other ones that we can actually. Then he also spoke about the renewable energy.
Which he thinks is not so friendly, well, at least on cost, in terms of cost
it's quite high. Yeah, so that is also an option for us to look at. Then we have issues of another option of LNG, and then also some people have spoken about coal. I don't know how far we can go with it as a country based on the merits and the demerits in using coal and all that. So I mean, holistically, we need to actually work hard and plan so that we'll come to a point where we have enough to feed ourselves and have a margin and even export abroad when we want to.
But for now, the situation with Bui and Akosombo, as he pointed out, it looks more like we are man proposes, God disposes. We are hoping that yes, the flow will increase, but the weather is also not so favorable lately, so it becomes a bit difficult depending on the rain to fill our water reserve.
Akosombo, unlike Bui Dam, covers more than 1,000 or million kilometers square. Bui Dam, our reservoir level, covers 444 kilometers square. That is actually much smaller than Akosombo Dam. And Akosombo Dam has its territories picking from Oti, the Black Water, the White Water, and other small rivers entering in. But for us, our main source is the Black Water, which actually we expect the inflows from the northern part. Fine, if we have the rains in Cote d'Ivoire or in Burkina Faso, they will draw down to us.
And what if the rains don't come?
We are hopeful the rains will come.
You're hopeful?
The rains will come. Because, I mean, citing the Bui Dam where it is has been based on the hydrology of the area. It's not as if we just one day said, okay, we're going to build a dam here. It has taken so much, so many years of studies to actually get the dam to where it is. I mean, that whole hydrology of the area, how long we are able to have rain, continuous rain, to actually sustain power generation, all those have been studied. We have all the reports. So we are hopeful we are entering the rainy season. we may experience, as I said much earlier, that we are experiencing some rain down south now. We are hopeful that the rains will turn up north in a week or two, and then we expect some level of increase in the dam, and then we'll also up our demand for power generation.
So for now, what's the way forward as far as BUI is concerned? You are using
for now, we are monitoring the situation.
One?
Yeah, we are operating one plant that is giving us 90 megawatts into the national grid, and we are monitoring the situation very carefully, and we are making judicious use of the water that will continue to be generating power than actually stop generating power. So as we speak now, the BUI dam is still working. We are still generating 90 megawatts, and then also giving the reactive power in megawatts also to boost the system supply.
So can you give us timelines as to when you expect to come back to full operation, full capacity?
Smart. Giving timeline would mean I will be God to tell you the rain will come and then things will go up. But from where I sit and from all the technical support and technical advice from our engineers, we'll be able to actually maintain the generation at the 90 till it gets to a point that the rain comes in to up it.
But I'm sure you're looking at some time somewhere along the line, hoping that
because
you say you are
a week or two that when the rains will actually set in up north, then we expect some substantial amount of rain to fill up the reservoir so that we can actually up our production.
So let's say if in a week or two the rains do come, how long will it take for you to get back to full capacity?
How long? We'll continue to operate at the minimum operating level. We'll continue to be at that level till we expect the rains to come in. Let's be hopeful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So let's say in a week or 2 weeks from now, the rains come in as expected.
I think you are pushing me to a point to give you if a week come or in 2 weeks then the rains do not come in.
No, I'm saying the rains do come.
The rains. Oh, if the rain comes, our reservoir will actually blossom. It will.
And how long will it take between, let's say, 2 weeks from now, the rains has come,
for it to full?
Reservoir is full. How long will it take to get back to full capacity?
I mean, it happens gradually. It will be going by 1 meter, 2 meter. I mean, 2 meters. I mean, that way it doesn't just get full with one rain. You know, it needs to rise or build up gradually.
So till you hit from 170 and above, you won't be at full capacity.
The maximum operating level is 183 meters above sea level, and the minimum is 160, is where we are now. And at this rate, instead of actually running the plant continuously, we're actually running it at peak period, like this evening when everybody's running home to actually put on a air condition, watch TV, as we are here in the studio, and turn on their radio and other things. At this moment, a lot of people need power, so this is the time we are operating the dam now to actually boost the system demand by gridco. So we are hopeful that when the rain sets in, the system will actually improve.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I've been speaking to the Assistant External and Communications Relations Officer of the BUI Power Authority, Marley Free Kojovia, and also earlier on the phone we were joined by the Director of Policy and Research at the Africa Center for Energy Policy, John Peter Amawu. Stay with us. This is today's big story. We'll come back with the second arm of the show, the interactive segment. Stay with us.